Today, we revisit one of the most overlooked songs of the era, and that is Danger off of Crue Shout at the Devil. And I remember when the album came out, Looks to Kill, Too Young to Fall in Love, these songs were literally videos were played in nonstop rotation on MTV. And Crue eventually later that year, would become acceptable by what we thought of as the good girl circuit in school, but they weren't quite yet. And I remember wearing my Mötley Crüe Shout at the Devil shirt and freaking people out. And I remember one of my teachers saw it and made me turn it inside out because they didn't like the graphic. I guess the pentagram freaked them out. And I had to walk around with it all day long, turn it inside out. And that is pretty much how it went in a pretty conservative rural Central Florida town. I'm sure that you guys have had similar experiences. I've had a lot of my shirts I had to turn inside out back then. And like most of my Wake and Bake friends, you guys know who you are. We already know who Crue was from the Too Fast album, and we couldn't wait for Shout. And when it came out, it was a banger, and we played it nonstop. And for me, I thought that there were some amazing songs on that album that never got radio play, never got videos made. Danger was one of them. I don't think that they ever made a video for that. The writing was very dark, very descriptive. And that song put me in Hollywood, in that scene on the Rainbow and the Whiskey and on Sunset Strip. And I thought that these were some of the best and most understated lyrics. Tattoo Lies, Distant Eyes, Hollywood. Very simple, but you don't need 1,000 words when 5 will do. Nikki and Mick wrote the song. I think Vince also got some credit on it. It's very descriptive. And the song is about destructive behavior, which is kind of heavy for a 23-year-old to write like that. Also considering that Crue was not yet famous at that point, and that the darkest roads were still ahead for them. And I also remember people later getting confused by the lyrics, My Best Friend Died, Lost My Mind, thinking that it was about Razzle. But this was written like 2 years before Vince's crash that killed Razzle. So obviously the timing doesn't quite match up, but you can understand if you're just hearing it later why you would jump to that conclusion, knowing the history of how Razzle died. And you can understand how that happens, and it does kind of fit, even if the timeline doesn't. So many good songs on that album were overlooked by just casual fans. But for me, Danger is one of those that sticks out as a very good cautionary tale from that time. And I have always loved songs that touch on that darker side of what we typically see, because people want to show you the polish, but it's not the polish, it's the pain that we identify with, no matter how glossy you make it. Anyway, that's my opinion. Love to hear yours. Drop it in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching Flickering Box. I'm Birch, and I will see you on the next one. Later.